Hey everybody, it's Mark here at the Portsmouth Basketball Podcast. I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who's supporting the podcast, listening, sharing it out there with everyone else to listen. We really appreciate this feedback. Myself and Paul put a lot of time into this, so we thank you so much. We do listen to your feedback. We're going to start chopping down the episodes and splitting them into a part 1 and part 2 for those longer editions. Some of the others will be just under the hour as normal. For those long interviews, we're going to chop them up and make it easier for you to digest. So look out for the episodes that are coming out like that, starting with this one today. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another edition of the Portsmouth Basketball Podcast.
Welcome back.
Welcome back indeed. I'm your co-host Mark.
I am Paul.
And we have another guest with us.
We have an absolute legend. A Portsmouth legend today.
Legend. How legendary?
Well, let me just go through his basketball history.
Let's have a resume.
Got Portsmouth FC Basketball Club, part of that junior setup. You've got Solent Stars, Portsmouth Pirates. This is that National League section that we don't know anything about. He's going to talk to us about that. Then, more recently, he actually played in the Portsmouth Force. And obviously with GB. And over 50s GB captain.
Wow. It's not you, is it?
It's not me.
You look over 50.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me introduce him now. Sorry. For those listening, I've got all these buttons to my left-hand side, and it's Is
it like NASA for you?
We almost need someone else to do that, don't we? Okay.
And now, stand and cheer at number 11, power forward, Andy Rowlands.
Thank you for that, Paul. Hey, we got it out.
Got it out
in the end. So, Andy, welcome. How you doing, mate?
I'm all right. Yourselves?
Very good.
Very good, thank you, sir.
Very good. So, I mean, I just want to crack straight in. Really, there's this National League section that we know happened, and you've just thrown a bombshell when you've come in here today because you've officially said it was called the Portsmouth Pirates. So we got a name for it now.
We have a name for it.
Yep.
We always weren't sure. It was something. There was something floating there, wasn't it?
We thought it could be smugglers, but
Yeah.
Andy's confirmed pirates.
Portsmouth Pirates, yep.
And the other bombshell, it went on for 9 years.
I think about that long, yeah. I mean, it's a long time ago, but I think it was late 90s to early 2000s.
Well, I definitely watched a game in 96. I remember that. And then there was a couple of games I went to, but I didn't realise that it went on for, almost a decade.
Yeah, I think so. So,
It's almost a continuous
flow, yeah.
Continuous flow between the teams, would you say? Or there was gaps between some of them?
Maybe a year gap, a 2 year gap, but it's just it kind of, up and down like a graph, like quite quick. You lose a team, another one comes up.
Because when we talked at the beginning, Andy, we were talking about where it all started from, and then with Portsmouth Basketball FC and kicking off from that. And if you think it's over 40 years of basketball in City,
yeah,
that's quite a lot of teams and quite a lot of people who've been playing and involved and everything like that. But the actual history of all the teams that are going through and some of the players, we're lucky to have you here. So we're missing so many gaps.
Yeah,
of what was going on.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's start there then with the Portsmouth FC basketball. So, what were you there? You were a junior.
I was a junior there. Went through to probably about under 18s, and then moved over to Solent Stars from there. So we were playing home games at the Mountbatten Centre, training at what was Great Salton's School, which became Portsmouth Sixth Form College, which is now Portsmouth College, that's on Tangier Road. The odd training session was inside Fratton Park. They had a little gym in there.
Yeah, they did. The gym alongside the stadium, didn't it? Yeah.
Which I think you could get 3-on-3 in there, but we were doing 5-on-5.
It's like
So it was
it's a wooden
quite
gym,
tight.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
wooden gym, no runoff underneath the basket. So if you're going too fast, you hit the wall.
Safe. I like it.
There's no health and safety back then.
But would have been the old wooden floors, so that'd have had
Yeah.
a good bit of sort of spring to it. And
I mean, I remember going in there a couple of times, and I always look back thinking it was a nice court.
I'd say it was a nice court for, like you say, the floor.
Mm.
But size-wise, I'd say it was, 1-2 badminton courts in
Oh, really?
length. Yeah,
I remember it being
wasn't
quite big
long.
for me,
Yeah,
but I
you were
would
little.
have been, I would have been 7 or 8.
Yeah.
So, like, have you got any memories of, some of those like legend players that we know, like Colin Irish? You got any memories of those guys?
Remember watching, and as we went up through the age groups at Portsmouth, we never trained with them because they were BBL level at that time. We were just the juniors, but I did get to play and train with him over at Solent a number of years later.
Oh wow!
And that was an experience playing with him, Alan Cunningham, Mike Spade, those sort of guys that 10 years before you were watching, and then you actually get to play and train with them.
That must have been amazing.
Yeah,
because they're like you're watching them play for.
You're watching them, you're seeing them, you're thinking, oh, that's something I want to do.
And like I keep saying on this podcast, for a 2-year period, Portsmouth FC Basketball Club was the best team in the country.
Yeah,
they won the BBL 2 years in a row.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
and then you're playing with them at Solent.
Yeah, it was. When you look back at it, you think, my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
At the time, it was just, I'm just playing basketball. They're just another teammate, and you were learning from them. I mean, there were times where the view was, you've probably heard it, don't let someone come through the lane without being touched. We as younger players would try and go through that lane in a training session, and it was like being a pinball.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. You hit the first guy, or the first guy hit you, into the next one, into the next one, into the next one, you came out the other side.
Yeah.
I remember seeing one guy went through the lane, had his hands down around his waist. Next thing you know, the ball smacked him in the face. And he was told, you never go near the basket without your hands up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Every time from that point on, as soon as one foot went in the lane, his hands were up by his face, ready to catch a ball.
But you know what? It's really interesting.
Lesson
Andy
learned.
says some of the things he's saying here, because I remember as a young player coming through the lane and getting absolutely clattered in the chest by Andy Rowlands and coming out the lane just like, can't breathe.
Yeah, he's just passing it on.
Just passing the knowledge.
Passing the wisdom, yeah.
Yeah.
And enjoying himself at the process.
Well, yeah, there is that. As you probably saw in some of the games last season.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like, I thought it was amazing watching you play. National League Division 3. That was brilliant.
Oh yeah, very, 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 very good.
My only, I don't know what the right word, not frustration is.
Disappointment.
Maybe disappointment. My only disappointment, we all wanted you to get on the score sheet.
100%.
And you're such a selfless player. You were looking out. You were absolute veteran last year, really looking after the people, helping compliment them. But from our perspective, looking at you, we were like, we really want to see him score.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I can understand that. But I also play with the thought of, it's not me, it's the team.
Yeah.
I would give up a good shot for a better shot if someone else has got a better shot. And also I know that, going down the road, these are the guys that are going to be playing next year, the year after, the year after.
Yeah.
And if you're taking away their chances to build their own confidence, you're not helping them.
Yeah. And
It's a great mentality, man. That's really, really great mentality.
And I've just got a question, kind of touching on what you just talked about there. So you're turning up with Colin Irish, and we're saying the physicality is right up there.
Yeah.
Where would you say the physicality is National League now compared to then? I mean, we were talking last time that you could punch someone in the face and it was a foul. And obviously now you'd be ejected from the league probably.
I think punching in the face is probably a bit over the top, even back then. But
you do remember some of the good elves playing, though,
yeah,
right?
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, they always talked a good game. But if you want to talk about the physicality then and now, I mean, the easiest comparison is you look at Detroit back in the 90s.
The Bad Boys.
Bad Boys. And the physicality in the NBA then to what it is now.
Yeah. Oh, look, Mark's got the shirt on.
1990s Pistons.
I mean, they won it 2 years in a row. Was it 89 and 90?
Yeah.
And that is the case now. It's, it is a different game. Back then, back in the 80s and the 90s, I'd say it was a sport. Now it's an entertainment.
Yeah.
You don't want, NBA or even over here, you don't want a packed arena seeing the best players getting injured and not being able to play.
Yeah.
So.
But they choose to sit out now, don't they? They have contracts that say, I can have 8 days off when I feel like it and all that nonsense. But I think, going on what you're saying, Andy, one of the things we noticed when we got up, we did a little walk around when there was a game on.
That was Orlando
in
versus
Orlando,
Indiana.
Yeah. And we just wandered around the sides and how long we could linger before they made us go back to our seats. But the noise of the athleticism and the physicality.
Oh yeah, it was literally.
Yeah,
like all
and that was inside. Orlando, Indiana. It wasn't even it was the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
it was. They were just getting into things. You thought, okay, there's still some big hits here because they're all big chaps.
Yeah, I mean, you will get that, but like I say, if you go back and look at it back then, it was physical. They would hit people. They would be happy to almost have a fight. Nowadays, it's a lot more. Or you touch someone, there's a foul.
Yeah,
it's the size. It is a different size of the team as well. In Solent Stars, for example.
Yeah,
you're quite a big team in comparison to the Force now.
Well, definitely. If you had Alan Cunningham,
yeah.
I mean, Colin Irish was like what 6'7". Mike Spade.
I think Colin was about 6'6".
6'6".
Mike Spade was big, wasn't he?
Spade was big, 6'10". Cunningham's 6'10", 6'11". Mark Scott was there. That's another one.
But then a lot of the teams have flipped again to. Like the play now is, I won't say hook up a three, but that dynamic of the whole game has changed.
The whole game's moved away from the basket, so the physicality has gone a bit because you're not fighting underneath the basket for the ball and for position. Whereas back in the day, you didn't have your 3-pointers or it was a new thing. So it was still get the 2 points, get it close in 2, fight for your spot.
Yeah. And I suppose the other dynamic where it's definitely changed is probably the actual fitness levels, where it's so specifically like there is I mean, I'm not saying they weren't fit in those days. I mean, look at Jordan in the 90s. Of course, he was super fit, but
but he's the blueprint on that, isn't he? Because he was the crossover.
There's more focus on it, isn't it?
Yeah. He brought that athleticism with the physicality because he used to get beaten up and everything. So he brought all of that across in. And you see the Last Dance, he talks all about that, doesn't he? How he was shaped of like getting beaten up by people at Oakley and stuff. You just, what are you going to do with that sort of thing? But I think it's like in rugby where kicking the ball in rugby was nothing. Like if you kick the ball, like when we were at school, you kick the ball, you got your butt kicked. And then all of a sudden, Wilkinson does it in the World Cup, and then every team for about the next decade, all they did was kick the ball in rugby.
Yeah.
And when you start seeing people hit a lot of threes, and even, Reggie Miller, Steve Kerr, they're all they're well known for hitting a big three. It wasn't really until this more modern advent of players just being closer to the logo than they were the 3-point line even.
Yeah.
That's massively changed the game, and defensively for a big player, they want the big player to be a 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
And they're not having a hand in the face. So arguably they're always going for the uncontested shot. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, is it a better game? There's a lot of threes.
It's a different game.
It's a different game.
Watching the Portsmouth Force last season, there was a lot going on down low. You know, we had.
But that's why I think they were successful, because there's a lot of other teams were just there sitting in the perimeter, and they're quite happy to be out there, and they want to be the let's hit a Showtime three.
But the interesting thing with last season, the team that won the league was Cardiff, and they were extremely physical, especially down low. Real big guys, that like ACAA player.
Yeah. But that's the gap, isn't it? Because the whole game shifted this way, so bring it back into the fundamentals. Go low, get a big man in there, make some space, and rebound.
Yeah. So, Andy, going on back onto Portsmouth FC and the Pirates. I mean, I don't think we can do a podcast without talking about Mickey Byrne.
Yeah.
You know, what are your memories of Mick?
Memories of Mick. God, how long have we got? Yeah. Bearing in mind, Mick's been there or thereabouts in my career from the age of 11, 12.
Wow.
All the way through to right now. Probably the best fundamentals coach I've ever had or seen. He's always been there. He's always been supportive of his players. He knows what he wants. Yes, he does. He did lose his temper a few times, but who doesn't? But you knew if you pleased him, you knew if you'd upset him. So there was no sort of like shying away from a coach that was like, I'll put my arm around you, but I really don't like what you've done, and trying to sugarcoat things. You know, he was old school.
If he was upset with it, you knew about it.
If he was upset with it, you knew about it.
Yeah.
Wasn't always the best coach for some people. You know, some people need, if you go back, if you look at things nowadays, you've got it. Everyone learns a different way. Everyone needs to be treated a different way. With Mick, it was this way or not. But, that's the time that he was brought up in, being in the Navy, the time we were.
But the thing I liked about Mick was he gave it to you straight. There was no BS with him. So he would say to
Absolutely
him,
not.
like, and you know what? I always felt with him, he kept it really simple. And he said things in a way where just me personally, I understood. He would be like, Paul, box out better.
Yeah.
Box out more. Or he would say something really direct, and you go, right, that's what I need to focus on. Yeah. It's
really interesting, isn't it? Seeing that was I won't say a moment in history, but it's continued all the way through, and it's the running theme of Portsmouth basketball.
Yeah,
it's the running theme of all our conversations, isn't it?
I mean, definitely. It's sad to say, but it's only really from the Portsmouth Force now, where we're, he was kind of an honorary chairman, but yeah, it's only now moving forward we're like, okay, he isn't there. But like I was saying to I think I said it to you actually on the tryouts, like, this is Mick's legacy.
100%.
And I like to think he's looking down just going, yeah, this is my legacy, but you could do that better.
Oh yeah, he'd probably say that. But if you want to look at his legacy, look at the people that were at his funeral.
Yeah.
You could look at that and you could almost map out the years just by the people that were there and the groups that they were in. I was there and I could they were from the 80s, they were the 90s, they were the 2000s, and you could tell just by who was there, the groups that they were with, and it just showed where he had been and what he'd been involved in.
Yeah, and I think we said it before, and it was only when Mark really mentioned it in this way, it just really, really affected me, is when you said, look, he's kind of been a father figure for you for 30 years.
It's a huge male influence.
Yeah.
He was who he was, and like you said, he told you straight, but you're a competitive person. And because you and your brother always were at the basketball, he dealt with you both in different ways. And he used to wind you up because you wound him up. But then that made you want to prove a point, which got the best out of you.
Yeah.
And then with Andy, he tried a different tactic.
Yeah.
But I think his legacy is as much in seeing all of the youth teams and seeing all that come through and seeing a path. Because, you know, I remember us going to Saturday mornings, and then getting trained, doing the fundamentals, and then even when he wasn't doing it, you took over. I think we even had Jason did some lessons sometimes.
I think Jason took over when he started the Portsmouth Fire. I think he was doing his own youth thing. So I think maybe it was going on at the same time.
There was some
mix.
crossover where we were doing some bits,
and then I think we ended up with Andy at what's the other place?
Wimbledon Park.
All Green, Wimbledon Park.
Yes. But all of those, the legacy is that you've got people now, and I think Rob said that when the youth team was coming through, they had 40 kids turn up for tryouts or something.
No, that's for like each National League team. So for under 12s, I think it was like 20 kids, and they picked 15. Under 14s, it was like, I want to say 36.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic.
But under 16s, it was like 46.
Yeah.
I don't know, what was it for under 18s?
40 plus, I think.
Yeah.
I think overall we had over 200 people come to trials weekend.
And then you had the men's, and again, there's probably
the
a good 40 for the men's.
I'd say just under 40 for the men's were there.
And you didn't have some of last year's players who will know there's a good chance they'll play.
They've got to prove themselves.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything else. They've just got, last year's players, they've got to prove themselves. You don't walk back into a team these days.
Was that always the case? Going through all the roster of teams you played for, was that always the case? You played last year, this year you got to prove it again.
Yeah. Or, yes, some players, you could almost say some players were guaranteed, but there was always that. You have trials. You keep going. You can't sit on your laurels.
No.
And I think that's the problem these days. Some people think, I scored 50 points last week, I'm fine. Well, every game's different, every season's different.
Yeah. Andy, so, you've talked about, the progression from Portsmouth FC Basketball Club, and then you went to the Solent Stars.
Yeah.
Did Solent win anything then with, Colin Alling and Mike Spade? Because I know those guys went a few years after Solent Stars. They went to Worthing, didn't they?
Yeah, they were at Worthing. So when I went to Solent, Alan, Colin weren't there. It was the likes of Roy Lewis, Paul Philp, and a lot of the Solent juniors. Chase Colgan was there.
Oh, Martin Dowdall.
Joe Morant, John Rumsey.
John Rumsey, I remember him, yeah.
One Div 4. I think that was the year that I joined near the end of that season. So they went up one Division 4, got promoted, won the playoffs in Div 3, got promoted, got up to Div 2, got promoted, got up to Div 1.
Wow.
So,
that's a good stretch.
Yeah. Obviously they weren't back-to-back promotions, but that's what went on while I was there.
So what happened with the Reading Rockets? Because you went and played for Reading. So did you leave Solent, or was it just a better opportunity?
It was... My time at Solent had come to an end. It was roughly when Mick was starting up Portsmouth Pirates. He had come back to Portsmouth, but I was working in Reading at the time. So
okay.
Oh, perfect.
The sensible thing to me was I was getting up in the morning at 6 o'clock, driving to Reading, doing a full day's work. Did I want to drive all the way back home, then train? or I had the opportunity to stay a couple more hours at work, a couple of days a week, go train with Reading and play for Reading.
Oh wow! And look, I mean, I know what Reading are like nowadays. Were they that powerhouse in those days as well?
They weren't the powerhouse, but they were a good, strong team.
Okay.
You probably, I don't know if you'll remember the name, but the coach at the time was Dave Titmus.
Oh yeah.
So he, as well as coaching Reading Rockets, he was the GB wheelchair coach.
Yeah.
So decent level coaching there. I'd say it was. I did a year. I was there for a year, but it was just the travel, just killed me. So I was getting home about 12 o'clock, half 12, to get up again the next day at 6.
Sorry, where were you? You were still based in Portsmouth.
Still based in
Oh,
Portsmouth. So,
I mean,
That's
we haven't
long
touched
day.
we haven't touched on that too much actually about travel, really. But
No.
the amount of travel that you have to do,
Yeah,
it's quite a lot, and that's not just on have a nice relaxing Saturday, is it?
no.
But that is as extreme as it gets. So playing a National League for Reading from Portsmouth, that's hardcore.
Yeah,
And talking about travelling,
That's hard.
This was something we've been talking about over a few episodes. Is do you prefer home games or away games? Because we felt with the away games, there's this camaraderie that's getting built in the bus with the team, and
For me personally, now at my age, home games. Do I want to sit in a minibus with 12 other people minimum for 2.5, 3 hours, stuck in there? You're all over 6 foot, cramped.
you're painting a wonderful picture, Annie.
Yeah, but that's
Sweaty.
that's what it was. I mean, go back to like Solent time. We had Nick Burns, 7'1". You're in a minibus with someone like that, and all your kit bags.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of space, and I'm like, at 52, no, I'll go to some away games, but I drive myself.
I think Mick splashed out on the minibus when he did the Portsmouth Smugglers, because I can't remember the minibus being much of a problem.
It depends on obviously the size of the minibus and the size of your players.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think over the years, different teams and different people have worked out how to pack the bags in a minibus properly.
We got leave room for beer, apparently, Paul. Isn't that right?
Yeah, in the Smugglers days, that's
Yeah.
what I used to take a beer cooler and
Yeah.
fill it with ice and just put beer in. And then the funny story that I told these guys was, if you lost, Mick would be like, "Get out! You're not having any of that beer. No one's touching it." And you'd go,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay," and then it'd be silence, and then 20 minutes down the motorway,
Crack. That's only Coke, honest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just lemonade.
and you see Mick's eyes like looking in that thing, and you just keep it down, and go under the seat.
Yeah.
So that takes us on the Pirates.
Yeah,
And
so-
Reading.
So
Yeah.
from Reading onto the Pirates then.
Yeah.
So they travelled too much. You like, bam, Mick's doing this team.
Mixed in
And
the
that
team.
is that's when I remember you playing it in '96.
Yeah.
And coming to watch, and back in Mountbatten Centre.
Yeah.
And
What a venue that used to be.
yeah, well,
Do you like the court? We had a discussion yesterday, literally about the court. You and me. We were talking about if you liked it or not. And I think
I wasn't
on the
a
one with
fan of
Steve,
the
we actually
floor.
talked about it as well.
the floor is very hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the venue's great.
The
Venue's great.
venue's great. The floor wasn't brilliant.
Not forgiving.
But if you go right back to Portsmouth FC, if you ever went to any of those games, they had a carpet that they would roll out and lay on the centre court at the Mountbatten Centre. So they never
Really?
played. Yeah, they never played on the tiled floor. They always had a carpet.
Really?
They were
Cool.
playing on a carpet.
I call it a carpet. It's like it was.
Oh, like a special
What?
matting sort of.
Yeah,
I never knew
a
that.
court.
Wow.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so-
Andy Rowlands with a huge piece of information we knew nothing about.
So all of those times I got like a burn on my leg from sliding on the floor or something. Could have been avoided.
yeah.
Bit of carpet.
And that makes sense, because I always look back and went, why were they playing on such a hard floor? But if they had something down, that makes sense.
Because that was an arm-forgiving floor.
Yeah.
Especially if you're just a little slip or something.
Yeah, and you know what? I do remember. I mean, I was very, very young, but I do remember, and it's something that I've been trying to encourage in the Portsmouth Force. I remember back in those days, you would have a men's game, let's say 7 o'clock, but you would have like one of your games before.
Yeah.
And people would turn up, watch that, and then just carry on watch the men's. And I think that's quite nice, because it allows the younger guys, or even the kids, you could get the under 12s to do it, to have a taste of that experience.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think the trouble is, though, it's costs. Back in those days, Portsmouth Football Club were John Deacon was bankrolling the basketball team, so money wasn't really a problem. You're now looking at trying to hire. If you want to do that, you're hiring Ravelin for 3 hours for the men's game, add another couple of hours on the front of that for a junior game. That's 5 hours of a double court that you've got to pay for.
Well, there is a good news about that solution, because on our last podcast, Paul actually announced that if he wins the Euro Millions, he's actually going to build a purpose-built stadium.
I can confirm that if I win the Euros Millions, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've got a 50-50 chance.
He's thinking a 3,000-seater. He's all in.
Yeah. No, I think, 3, maybe 4,000. You got to be focused BBL. Build a little arena for that.
But it's having the main thing is having the bleachers, because obviously where Force at the moment with Ravelin, you've got those lovely bleachers, but one side.
Yeah.
If you had that other side,
do you think they'll ever swap court rounds and have bleachers both sides?
They'd have to get a centre net and do the flooring and everything as well.
They'd have to redo the floor, get more bleachers, store the bleachers somewhere, sort out rings. I've had this discussion with Rob, chairman, because he said, no, he wants 1,000 in there. And I said, we're not being funny, but I'd rather play with what we've got at the moment and have it packed.
Yeah, build it up.
Than have half of it empty.
Yep.
If we get to the end of this season and you're having to turn people away, that means you've got a really good product.
Yeah, I think you're right. Focus on getting like 500 people on there and just take those little steps. But yes, if you got 500 people in there and you got 500 people outside, we need to do something about it. But we were getting 350 last 4 home games. So if the focus goes to 500, finish that season. If you're getting that, okay, now let's talk about the next
seating on
up.
the ends, isn't it?
Yeah,
two end bits.
Seating at the ends. Talk to the university at that point and say, look, we're bringing this in. What can we do?
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, it's the university's building. It was designed for the university. There wasn't the basketball team around at the time, so
I think the big question mark would be the fire guidelines. Because at the moment, you can only get 600 people in the sports hall.
Yeah.
So I don't know, would they change that, or what happens?
Could Mountbatten make a resurfacing?
Well, they do have bleachers both sides.
They
That's
have
the thing
bleachers
about
both sides.
They're the only ones who could facilitate 1,000 people.
I mean, I think if you look historically, when we used to sit there, we were maybe sitting a bit differently to how they might have people now. They might have, I think there was about 1,500 people there in those games, wasn't there? So,
but
still get 1,000, I reckon.
I remember being at games at the Mountbatten Centre, and we were 3, 4, 5 deep on the balcony.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
The VIP section.
Yeah, you had a VIP section up on the balcony, and you had people 4 or 5 deep up on the balcony because all the bleachers were full. So,
wow.
That's so cool.
It's such a shame that there's limited photography of that. I mean, it's just little crappy pictures of the court, and you don't get that. You don't see that.
It's not that recognition that they were the best team in the league.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a small thing to achieve.
And it was the double, and then just bam, suddenly stopped. It's again.
It got sold to Glasgow.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, Glasgow Football Club bought the basketball team.
And so where did it go from there?
Went up to Glasgow, So the players went to Glasgow.
Oh my God, this
What,
is Seattle all over again.
the entire team?
The entire team got sold to Glasgow.
So they all had to go up.
Yeah, I don't know whether all of them went, but because that's basically what happened to start the club. John Deacon bought a team from somewhere in the Midlands.
Going with T, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Might have been Telford or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was. So it was something like that.
He bought a team from the Midlands, brought them down, and that's what happened. They then got sold off to Glasgow.
So maybe
It's the
that's
Supersonics
why
all over again. It's upsetting.
he's not that he's better about that.
It's very bitter. I still don't eat Starbucks to this day. That
Well,
weasel sold them.
I think
I'm not
at
big.
some
Was that to
point
pay
in
his
the
tax
future,
bill?
Don't. Let's not go there.
the Sonics will be back. They'll be back.
Yeah, I've been saying that for like 20 years. I gave up and started supporting the Mavs. And I'm wearing a Pistons top, so I'm a confused supporter. What can I say? Wow. So they just sold them off and that was it.
I mean, Andy's throwing bombshells. Since he's walked in this door, he's been throwing bombshells. Stuff we didn't know. So
That's
Glasgow.
why he's the legend. That is Andy Rowlands.
Wow. So you went to the Reading Rockets and the Portsmouth Pirates, and you had good days at the Pirates. How successful was the Pirates?
We weren't as successful as I think Mick would have liked, because obviously you start again at the bottom, but I think he used it again as a pathway for players.
Was that Div 4 again?
Div 3, Div 4, yeah.
Yeah.
So start giving players in the area a pathway so that they could get back on to playing National League level.
I mean, you've got a lot of experience in that progression between going from Div 3, Div 4, Div 3, going up. You've done that with a few teams now. What do you think, bringing that forward to the Force, what do you see? How could you do a blueprint for that mapping forward?
I don't think there is a blueprint. A blueprint would require everybody to be doing the same thing, and you find a way to beat everybody. If you look at most teams, everyone's got their own way of playing. So one size doesn't fit all. So you could turn around and say, okay, the best thing for Force is we play with 2 big guys, 3 guards, pump the ball inside. That's great against a team that haven't got any big guys. You come up against a team whose big guys are as good as yours, and their shooters are better than yours, you've got a problem. So you have to adapt, and that's coach. Your coach has to read. You've got to have scouts, see what's going on, and some of it's luck. I say this as a player, you can't always know what a referee is going to see in a game.
Yep.
I mean, Paul, you've been there as a player, you've been there as a referee. What you think as a player and what you've seen as a player isn't always what a referee sees. And if the referee sees it differently, that's what's going to happen. Referees are human, referees are emotional, and what I say by that is I was out in Venice a couple of weeks ago playing in a tournament. We had 2 teams. One guy in one of the teams got ejected 3 times in 6 games by having
He sounds like my kind of player.
by having a go at the referee.
Yeah, sounds like your kind of player.
The referees, because we were the same club with the same kit, started penalising our second team that I was in.
That's harsh.
Because they were seeing the same kit, the same club name,
Seeing red.
and going, oh, that's the team that are causing the problems. So we didn't get the calls.
And that's where
what
referees get it wrong. I think when
well, is it referees or is it players? At the end of the day, we're all human. We
But
all make mistakes.
I do think
How influential is a ref then?
a ref can be extremely influential.
Yeah.
A ref can decide the game.
Is that as prominent nowadays as it was back then?
I think it still is. Yeah, I think potentially it's more prominent.
Yep.
Because referees are given a lot more protection.
Changing physicality of the game?
A bit of that, But I would even say it's outside of the game.
Oh, really?
If you go back to, Solent Stars, Portsmouth Pirates, you'd have your game, you'd play your game, you'd go get changed, you'd go up into the bar afterwards, there'd be food laid on.
Yeah.
Home team, away team and referees were all in there together.
Yeah.
All chatting, all talking. You talk about the game, you could talk about some bits and pieces. No one got upset. Nowadays, game finishes, referees are gone. You've got no interaction with anybody. You can't build up a rapport with referees. I mean, I remember a time we had a referee at Solent. I questioned one of his calls during the game. He said, no, it's this. We discussed it up in the bar afterwards, trying to get his viewpoint on it. And I was saying, no, you got it wrong. It's this, it's this, it's this. The following day, he contacts my wife, Sarah, and says, tell Andy he was right. I got it wrong.
Wow.
He'd looked up the rule
Fair play.
book.
Fair play to him.
He admitted that he got it wrong.
And you know what? I think that's one thing that is admirable if a referee does it. And I always remember I tried to do it, but I love to see when a referee just turns around and says, you know what, that was my mistake. I was anticipating a call. That was, sorry, my bad, jump ball or something like that. I love seeing that because that just shows a referee has integrity. But in defense to referees, I do think, and I only really started thinking this when I started reffing, you don't know the angle and what the ref's seeing.
No.
You can't see either. So even if you think, man, that was no way a foul, at the same time, there's a doubt in my mind that would be like, well, I don't know the angles he's at. Do I really know where my hand, the other hand was? Okay, you know what? It could be a foul. But I think just going back to Andy's point, having that integrity. So when the game finishes and going, that's it, forget about it, done.
Yeah.
You can never take baggage into another game. That is just, I think, the worst thing. And I've seen it loads of times with referees, and I think it's the worst thing. I just think it's unprofessional because like you got penalised really because of the actions of a few players in one game, and that's just not fair.
That's human nature, though, isn't it? And referees may take baggage into a game. I know players do. I know teams do. How many times have you been to a game, even local league, and gone, oh, it's that referee?
Yeah, you do.
So, you already start the game with that thought. He's going to foul me out, or he's going to call something bad, or they're going to do this. They don't like us.
Well, one of the things that you talked about, I mean, when Paul started doing the reffing, I remember him saying how it made him change his perception of it. And quite recently you said you thought that at least one player on every person's team should go and do the reffing.
No, I think
just
anyone.
Just to have that baseline of this is the person who's calling the shots, and this you've got to understand their perspective of the game because they're the shot caller ultimately.
Yeah, even from standing in a specific location and looking for the gaps, looking for the angles. Once you understand that, like you've got the game of basketball being played, but then there's a whole other game that's being played with the referees, and the communication between the referees is essential as well. And it completely, you look at basketball completely different once you're a referee. And
do you think that would give players an advantage, knowing that?
You know what, I would say yes.
Yeah.
And I cannot verify this fact, but I'm pretty sure Kobe Bryant became a qualified referee, so he would have, even if it was at a small edge where if I go here I'm out of sight of a ref, or it's I think it adds a string to any player's bow. There's another thing I'm going to add on here that just come to mind, and that is I do think there's the potential that referees will ref you differently as a player if they know you're a referee.
Ooh.
Because there's that expectation of, oh, hang on, I can't make a mistake because he's a referee, and there's going to be some judgment there.
I don't think they're worried about that.
Because I noticed once I became a ref, the calls I got became better. I was like, wow, how am I getting this? Some of the Fury guys actually said, why are you getting this?
Because you're being politer to the ref, maybe this time.
It could be the politeness.
Yeah, I mean that's some of it. You could talk to referees back in the day, and get away with things.
Oh, look, that is unprofessional, isn't it?
That is outrageous.
And he's got his phone on.
We didn't do the
during a podcast.
Here are your exits. Please turn your phone off.
Well, it is turned off.
It's like the
everything
cinema.
else, that's WhatsApp.
Oh, there we go.
I think that's a referee.
Popularity. Yeah, someone's heard.
Yeah, someone's heard.
Probably from the Kestrels.
But you know what? Once I did become a ref, I did communicate with them, and I would actually go and try and to proactively have a level head and calm and just say, what did you see there? And just ask questions rather than be confrontational. Just ask the question, what just happened there? Also, what I started to do, if I saw the ball go out and it came off me, or I saw it came off one of my players, I say, ref, that's their ball.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it kind of sort of ties in with the timeline for the game changing. Although refereeing has changed a little bit, but the game has changed the way basketball is played. Certainly in the NBA. But how does the game changing in the NBA affect the game in the UK and in FIBA and that sort of stuff? Because you have a lot of experience of watching that change, because there's been a huge shift.
Well, also Andy's got a lot of experience in FIBA as well.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking, because we're just talking like some of the UK teams here, but obviously you've played FIBA and there's crossovers there now, and now you're getting more FIBA players going to the NBA as well. Yeah, more than ever.
I think the fact that the NBA has become more of an entertainment rather than a sport.
Yep.
Therefore, certain aspects of the game have been watered down. Travelling, the
James Harden,
the bringing in of the gather step. So you've now got three steps instead of 2 steps on a layup. Certain ways of playing, street ball.
Yeah.
People seeing that, they play street ball, they then try and bring that into an organised game.
So is that an evolution of the Euro step as it was?
A little bit of that.
I think that's where it started, wasn't it? The Euro step.
The Manu Ginobili special.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, those sort of things that have been allowed to happen in the NBA that have then slowly come across because people are doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back to when we were playing or growing up and learning the fundamentals, you would have been told if you put your hand below the centre line of the ball, it's a carry.
Yeah.
Your hand always had to stay above the ball.
Yep.
How many times do you see in games now where, even over here, a player will put their hand underneath the ball, change direction
all
with
the
it,
time,
and it's not called.
I think, and we're going to get a ref on to find this, but I think if there's no advantage, like for the offensive player by moving his hand down and coming back, they won't call it. Yeah. If there's an advantage, that's when they'll call it.
Is that flow of play? Is that kind of, we want to just keep the game flowing?
But
it's still wrong though, isn't it?
There is an advantage though, isn't it? Because if you put your hand underneath the ball, you've got complete control of where you put that ball next.
Yeah.
You can go, if your hand goes underneath it, you can go the way it was going, or you can pull it back the other way. If your hand's above the ball, you can't control that ball as easily.
Yeah.
So there's always an advantage by being able to do it.
Yeah,
but they don't call it.
They've used it with you're a bigger player, they got bigger hand, or it slips under, or there's always something, isn't there? Some reason for it.
So it is that.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny when you seeing the parallel of the game that we saw, the fundamentals that you would teach and Mick would teach, and how they're still relevant today.
Yeah,
because they are the fundamentals.
Yeah,
and if you get those things right, there's a rebound going up, box someone out. They can't. It doesn't matter how big they are; they're not going to get over you. They can't jump over you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I can hear Mick saying that. Yeah, you put your body between them and the ball, they're not going to get it.
Yeah.
And it's just simple stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, if 5 of you box out, the other team can't get the ball. It doesn't matter if the ball hits the floor and rolls around for 30 seconds. If you've stopped them from getting it, they can't score.
Yeah. So Andy, when going
Back
to
again.
last season,
Yep.
like what happened? Like what made you decide Portsmouth Force? Because I mean, it was the first season, no National League basketball in Portsmouth for a decade.
Yeah.
And Portsmouth Force came into fruition. When they decided the Portsmouth Force name, by the way, Pirates was being brought up. I thought Pirates was going to be a good one. I thought that's a cert. That's going to be it. But there's so many different teams called Portsmouth Pirates, like badminton and darts or gamers or whatever, that they wanted something original.
They wanted something original. They wanted something that no one else had ever used. I think it went on for about 3 or 4 months. Where it's like, oh, what can we use as a name? Then what can we have as a logo? Rather than 1 or 2 people saying this is what it's going to be, it went out to, I think, nearly everybody in the club. What do you think?
I think the saying is a camel is a horse designed by committee, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
But I think, the Pirates would have been good. You got your market there, like pirate flags. It's quite easy, isn't it? But the Force isn't a bad one. When they said Force, I was like, hang on, the Fury used to be called Force.
Yeah,
brilliant. Like only for 1 year.
Yeah.
But
that's. The naming thing is maybe they overthought it a bit too much.
There were some silly ones, wasn't there?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Dreadnoughts was one.
Oh, nice.
The Admirals.
Yeah.
See, the Admirals didn't sound great, but I thought having the abbreviation of the A, like a really big A, like you see in American culture with like the A on the jersey, and call it the A's.
Yeah.
And the mascot would have been easy. Just get a little mini Nelson running around.
Something like that. But we've digressed here. But so, Andy, why the Force? Why'd you come back after 15 years out?
I just started playing again tried out and got into the GB over 50s team, and the opportunity.
He just threw that one in there. Yeah.
Listen, I was looking at his shirt and I was thinking, I'm bringing that up.
And it was an opportunity just to try and keep fit. If I'm playing at a level, but due to people's work commitments, etc., for GB, we were only able to meet up once a month. I had to do something to try and quote stay match fit or prepared for matches. So the opportunity was there. I tried out. I think Daniel saw me more as a father figure, someone to help with the guys that are coming through and just impart some experience, rather than, as you saw, I played a couple of games, but I got more out of the training with these guys that kept me fit, kept me going.
And that makes sense. You got the GB thing going, keeping you if you're National League fit, you're playing with National League Div 3 players, that's only going to benefit GB.
Yeah.
You know what? I think when I was watching you throughout the season, I think that veteran player. That's how I'd phrase it. I think there was one moment, and I'm trying to think of the player who it was, and they came off, and I just saw you put your arm around him, and just was in his ear, and I was just like, that guy's just benefiting from that, because
100%.
You're helping him out, but let's face it, you're giving him the wisdom that Mickey Byrne, Colin Irish, Mike Spade, all those guys have given you.
Me, yeah.
And that's what I saw throughout the season, which is why we were all so excited when you actually came on. It was like, now it's time. Here we go.
100%. It's happening.
But going back to that playing, I think it was the Exeter game. I got those 2 quick fouls.
Oh, that was at home. Yeah,
that was the home game. Yeah, the fouls. Yeah. But I spoke to the team manager after the game, and he actually turned around to me and said they wouldn't have been fouls back in the day. And that goes back to the difference in how physical it was back in the 90s to what it is now.
So is it difficult playing? Did you find it difficult with with that transition of physicality changing?
I don't think it was the physicality. I think the problem that I had was the brain said you can do this. The body said, what you thinking about?
Yeah.
So the brain's going, yeah, you can get there. The body's going,
Give us
no,
a
you
minute.
can't.
Give us a minute.
Yeah.
Let me just warm up.
Yeah, and I think that was the problem that I had some of the time was, you know, I thought I could get there. The body says, no, you're not getting there. You know, you forget that you're, you know, I was 30 years older than some of those guys I'm playing against.
Yeah, but that's, you know, going back to what Paul said, that's your basketball IQ. You're like, there's the gap. That's where I need to be. I want to walk over here. But just physically, you're like, I need to get round. I need to run round this person, etc., etc.
Yeah, but also sometimes, you know, knowledge beats youth.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but when you're trying to chase down a 20-year-old and he's got 30 plus years on you.
I mean,
your knowledge ain't going to help you that much, is
the
it?
Portsmouth team were quick. They were very quick. I think they were one of the quickest teams in the league, from what I remember.
Yeah, they were.
I think they were.
They did do
gotta
well.
be top 3 as far as speed. I mean, I remember watching Patrick Eliguace. He picked up that ball, and it was like 3 seconds later, he was jogging back after scoring. It was like, damn, that was quick. That was quick. He is fit. He is really fit.
I genuinely did think Portsmouth were going to run more last season than they did. I thought they were going to come out of the gate a bit faster than they did. On some games, took a little while to warm up. Definitely.
I think you'll see something different this year.
Really?
I mean, that's experience, though, right?
Yeah.
Some of that's experience, yeah.
And the team gelling together. Running plays, etc. Yeah.
And the personnel that we had then to potentially who we've got this year.
Yep.
There are some changes. I'm not saying what, because obviously
Wow.
that's not for me.
Wow, he knows
But,
things.
You know, all of these players have had a year playing together.
Yeah.
You know, and some of them, you know, they're university guys, so they've been playing with each other for the university as well. So, you know,
they're playing like 5 times a week, aren't they, with each other?
As you probably saw, you could almost tell, I reckon, by the end of the season, which ones were university players, because the way they were gelling with each other was obvious. Whereas at the start of the season, you're looking at, you know, that's 10 guys that have just joined up and met each other.
Yeah.
I mean, you touched on something there. Talk me through an off-season. How that differs, you know, with all the teams that you've played through. What is it like in an off-season when you're playing in Portsmouth FC, in the Pirates, in Reading, etc.? What are you doing as a player?
Back in the day, it was, that's it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you'd finish your season. You might be able to find somewhere to go and shoot occasionally, but you usually had 2 months off, do what you wanted, and then you'd come back a month and a half before the season started, start training again. Things obviously changing nowadays. We're back. Portsmouth Force are back training already, and we had the trials in start of July. So Daniel's got a core of players.
Oh wow,
the
team's started then.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you're going to have some introductions in September when the new year 1 students or master degree students turn up, or PhDs.
Yeah.
Got the potential of more players coming in, depending on, you know, the university, who's there. There might be some that come in and Daniel goes, like them, let's get them into the squad. We've improved links with the under-18 squad, or I say improved links. We've now got an under-18 squad. We didn't have one last year. Yeah. So we've got a couple of the under-18s coming up and training with us every so often. Wow. So they're getting the experience of playing with the seniors.
Brilliant.
They may not get games this year, but they're getting the experience of training and playing.
Yeah, because in like 2, 3, 4 years' time, you know,
they're the guys that should be out
and
there.
They're not going to be worried because they've gone through that of, I've turned up. And, you know, the one player was, I thought last season was Zion Dawson. Yeah. So, you know, he was 15 playing National League Div 3. I mean, he didn't get a load of time, but you know what? He was, I think all credit to him. I remember he was playing under 14s. He was 13. He was playing under 14s. and I saw him praying, just playing in a game, and his dad was next to me, and I was like, he is not an under 14 player. You know that, right? He needs to turn up. And I was coaching under 16s at the time. I said, get him to turn up to under 16s. He should be playing up. He's good enough. He turned up to under 16s the next week, and within a couple of minutes I said to his dad, he's one of the best players here. He's starting 5 already. And so he played with under 16s, and then next year he was playing for the Portsmouth Force, and it was like, wow, fair play to him. I mean, if I would say not just him, but I think his dad and his older brother is playing for Brighton Football Club, and I think he's a left back or right back, but he's looking for a contract in a couple of years' time, a professional contract, and he's got a little brother who's pretty good as well. But the whole family are just really nice, but they've all got their heads switched on. There's no messing about. I just think that's Zion, how he performs, just a credit to their mentality.
Well, that goes secular as well, because just like you were saying earlier at the beginning, with Portsmouth FC, you were playing in the juniors. So you got to play with some of the guys, maybe to train occasionally or something when you went to Solent Stars, and then you got to impact the knowledge, etc. The same thing occurs as it now occurring in the Force. That's great to hear, isn't it?
So did you enjoy playing for the Force and coming back?
Yeah, it brought the love back for the game, for playing.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'll say that as for playing. Obviously I'd stopped playing for a while, but I carried on coaching. I was coaching basketball, I was coaching football, so I was still involved in the sports. But the playing, it was like, I'm not too fussed about playing. Then, getting back into it, it's like, actually, I love this. I'm enjoying it again. Part of me saying, why did I stop?
Yeah.
But, you can't change history. There are reasons I stopped. Now you go back to it and think, actually, maybe it was the right thing to stop, because I've got the love back.
So that ends this episode of the Portsmouth Basketball Podcast. Part 2 of this interview will be coming out in 24 hours, so tune in for that one. But until then, wherever you are and whenever you're listening, we thank you so much for your support. Till then, bye-bye.